free. The number to call is 1-800-488-8129. I'll give it to you one more time. It's 1-800-488-8129. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Please join us again next week for another edition of Discoveries in Health. Until then, I'm Chris McKay, wishing good health to you and your family.
WTBN Pinellas Park, WLCC Brandon.
Faith Talk Tampa, online at letstalkfaith.com. Download the Faith Talk Tampa app.
With SRN News, I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. The House this past week delivered a rebuke to President Biden for pausing that shipment of weapons to Israel. It passed legislation that seeks to force the weapons transfer. House Speaker Mike Johnson.
Joe Biden is turning his back on Israel and trying to dictate to the prime minister there, Netanyahu, and his team how to prosecute the war, how to defend themselves. He's trying to micromanage their effort there.
Johnson's full interview can be heard today on the Salem News program This Week on the Hill. Nearly 1 million homes and businesses remained without power yesterday from Texas to Louisiana after fierce thunderstorms swept hurricane-force winds through the area, including in Houston. Bob Oravec is a lead forecaster at the National Weather Service.
A lot of heavy rain, and there's a lot of severe reports also. There was a lot of high wind reports that stretched across southwest to central Texas towards the Houston area.
Officials say the storm blew out windows from downtown skyscrapers and toppled transmission towers. And the National Weather Service warning people to be careful with that hot weather as they take part in the rigorous effort of cleaning up after the storm. World number one player Scottie Scheffler was arrested early Friday morning following an incident with an officer outside the Valhalla Golf Club side of the PGA Championship. The European Union has launched a formal investigation into Meta. Tasha Stevens explains.
The EU says the social media giant is failing to protect children on its platforms. The probe focuses on whether Facebook and Instagram are addictive to young users and if parent company Meta is doing enough to protect kids. If Meta is found not to be in compliance with the European Commission's Digital Services Act, a new law for online platforms, then it could be fined as much as 6% of its global revenue or forced to change its software. Tasha Stevens reporting.
And this is SRN News.
The following program is sponsored by the law offices of Patrick L. Smith. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. Get ready with your legal questions and call Patrick now. 877-943-9673. Again, that's 877-943-9673. The law office is open. And now your host, Patrick Smith.
Good morning. And it's so great to be back with you live in our home studio right here in beautiful Tampa, Florida. After a couple weeks of hiatus, it just feels like coming home again, Yumiko, and it's so great just to be back in the usual studio. You don't realize how much you get used to something. Was it weird for you guys, me not being here the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, it was different. It was strange.
Like good different or bad
No,
different?
bad different.
Bad different.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the right answer. So that's what I was. Thank you, Miko. No, we appreciate you guys holding down the fort while I was gone. And we were gone for a couple weeks because, number one, we were in the New York City studio a couple weeks ago. And then last week, of course, we were out because several of my interns were graduating. And one of them, Lexi, the intern, who all the regular listeners to the show were very familiar with, was actually commencement speaker and absolutely crushed it. Perfect speech. I had no notes. It was absolutely amazing. And the commencement ceremonies were wonderful. So it was great to see all those interns walk and graduate and move on to the next phase of their careers. Many of them headed to law school. So very excited for them and looking forward to bright legal futures. Anyway, we're back. We're live. Today is Saturday, 18th of May. My gosh, this year's flying by. And we'll be with you for the next hour. So if you have a legal question, for those of you new to the show, first of all, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show Nation. Great to have you. And for all our regular listeners, for all our faithful listeners, we appreciate you. I do get all the messages about your faithful listenership, and I appreciate your support. The show, for those of you new, it's a legal call-in show. I'm Attorney Patrick Smith. I'm a practicing attorney, offices throughout the Sunshine State, Florida native, graduate of Stetson University for undergrad, UNC Chapel Hill for law school, and we are happy to be with you every Saturday morning to answer your legal questions. To call in and be part of the show, 877-943-9673. 877-943-9673. You can give us a call now, live and local. Happy to help. The office line, I'll give it out early for those of you who like that. To reach me at the office to schedule your complimentary consultation, 844-PATRICK or 844-728-7425. Yumiko, you want to hear how my morning started?
Yes.
So I get up about 5:30 and sort of get up early. I usually have a bowl of Captain Crunch. I like the Crunch Berries version, and watch some Mystery Science Theater 3000, just to get my head right early in the morning. This is after devotional time and all that, and I'm feeding the dogs, and I let the dogs outside, and I hear a splash, right? And I was like, that's not normal. Like, we have the birds, but they don't normally in the middle of the night or early morning start feeding by diving in the water.
Mhm.
And we live on the water. Many, we live in Indian Rocks Beach. We're actually on the water. And my 12-year-old Boston Terrier had fallen in the intercoastal. Yeah. So as a split-second decision, the tide's super low. So I quickly call my wife, and I'm like, hey, get down to the dock. And, she comes down. And as it turns out, I needed her because it was so low, I couldn't get back onto the ladder
Mhm.
with a dog in my arms. So I'm glad I made that call. But I'm fully dressed for the show. So do I jump in clothes on, or do I shed myself of the clothes to save the wardrobe change and then go in? Which do you think I did?
I think you went in with your clothes on.
Nope.
No?
Didn't want to have to change my clothes.
Oh.
So thankfully it was still dark out. But yeah, absolutely. And my wife had the best comment of all when she comes out there and she says, why don't you have any clothes on? And I said, I had clothes on. I said, I didn't want to have to change again
Mhm.
before the show. She goes, oh, that's right. It's Saturday. I thought it was Sunday. And I was like, yeah, that's right. So yeah, anyway. So that's how my morning started, folks. So I'm so happy to be here with you guys to answer your legal questions. 877-943-9673. And by the way, the dog doing great, perfectly fine. Okay, after getting a little salt water logged. So let's go to Mary in Palmetto. Mary in Palmetto, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. How can we help you today, Mary?
Good morning.
Good
Thanks
morning.
so much for taking my call.
Happy to do it,
Can
Mary.
you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay. I had an air conditioner installed in my house. They came out and installed it. They left the whole side of my house all disarrayed. My bricks are disarrayed. The wiring is pulled. I'm in a manufactured home. They pulled the wiring away from the side of my house. The bricks are all disarrayed. The unit itself was all banged up. They left rocks all through my lawn. I've called them several times to come out and do something about it. I get no response. I have absolutely no paperwork on anything. I've asked several times for that. When they came out to give us this information, they had us signing papers, but I have nothing of what we signed. I really need some help. I've just called everybody I can. I don't know what else to do.
Well, you've called the right place, Mary. We're happy to help you. So here's what I think you should do, okay? In situations like this, it's really important to validate the emotions you're feeling, the frustration, the anger, and everything, but then kind of set it aside a little bit and focus on just remedying the problem. So that's the first step. And then the second step is for Mary to decide at the end of this, for Mary to be happy, what does Mary want? What does Mary want that to look like? So, Mary, just tell me in your own words. This is all handled. Everything's perfect as far as you're concerned. What does that mean to Mary? What does that look like?
That means the side of my house will be taken care of, and it won't decrease the value of my property. They have actually defaced the side of my house.
So we have progress already, Mary. So we know what you want. Now we just got to get you there. Okay. So the first step would be you writing a letter to the air conditioning company. Now, if you find yourself getting emotional and getting angry, go ahead, get it out in that version of the letter and then burn it. And then, like you've heard me say several times on the show, if you're a regular listener, write the Dragnet version next, the just the facts, ma'am version, where you bullet pointed. I hired you guys for this job this day. The work was done. These are the damages. Here's photos. Here's what I want. Now that we know that, here's how long you have to perform these repairs, whatever you want to give them, 30 days or whatever you think's reasonable. Send that letter, regular mail and certified mail. That way, if they refuse to sign for the certified mail, there's a presumption they got the other letter. Okay. If they don't respond to that, I think you got to get an attorney involved at that point. But what you've done there is laid the foundation. So if, and I don't think this would, but if this winds up at trial, you've built this track record showing that Mary tried to amicably resolve this without resorting to litigation. It makes you look like the more reasonable party. Now, the other thing I would say to you, Mary, in that letter, since you don't have copies of any of those documents, put a request in there for that. I'd like a copy of any and all documentation that I signed or any and all documentation regarding the work done on my home, and just request that. And then hopefully they send it to you. And there may be terms in there that you've agreed to without knowing it, obviously, regarding any sort of dispute resolution with this company. Sometimes they're binding arbitration clauses. Sometimes there are provisions regarding waiving a right to a jury trial or things of that nature, or different jurisdictions. And you'll see those clauses in there. So we would want to know, because if those clauses exist, they obviously define the rules for the game. Does that make sense, Mary?
Yeah, it makes sense. So you're saying send two letters, one regular mail and one registered mail.
Yeah, send the same letter twice.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you want me to look at the letter before you send it, don't make reference to having an attorney in the letter or saying you're going to get an attorney or any sort of legal threat. You want it to really be sort of neighborly. Like, hey, I'm just making you guys aware of this. Just be really gentle with it. Help them want to help you is what I'm saying. If you come at them, sort of guns blazing, they're not very likely to want to work with that person. But if you're coming at them sort of with an offering of, hey, I'm reasonable, here's your chance to be reasonable too. Yeah, if they're going to work with you, that's the best opportunity and the most fertile ground for that to blossom. And I'll be happy to take a look at the letter with you and kind of review it from an objective standpoint and give you any notes I have on any edits.
Okay, could you give me your office number, sir?
Yeah, it's 844-PATRICK or 844.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
844
728
728
7425. 844-PATRICK.
7425. May I say that again? 844 728 7425.
That's perfect, Mary.
Thank you so much for taking my call. I will do as you suggested. Have a blessed day, and I'm glad you and your puppy are okay.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Mary, let me ask you a question. How old are you?
I'm 79.
79. You sound much younger.
Oh, God bless you. I needed that today.
Well, Mary, so let me ask you this. I like to ask people who have been alive as long as you a couple of questions. Do you have a couple extra moments? They're not legal questions.
Absolutely. You got all the time in the world, sir.
Oh,
go for it.
You're a treasure. Okay, so let me ask you this. These are the two questions. Most frequently, I like to pick the brains of like 90-plus-year-olds with these questions, but anyone who's been alive as long as you sort of has the same threshold level of life experience. So number one, in your 79 years on this planet, what's the most important thing that you've learned?
To love one another.
Love one another, which, believe it or not, 98% of the time, the answer is some version of that. Love one another, be kind to people. It's some version of that. Here's the second question. I'm 42, Mary, okay, since we're sharing ages with each other. If Mary at 79 could get a message back in time to Mary at 42, what would that message be and why?
Spend more time with the loved ones that I've lost.
Yeah, that's always good. You never find yourselves regretting things like making more money or spending an extra day at
No,
the
money.
office, but it's one of those
No,
things where
no,
you can
no,
never get that time back with family, can you?
no.
No.
It's very, very important.
Well, Mary, are you a believer, by the way?
Oh, absolutely.
So you'll see your family again one day.
Absolutely.
Well, Mary, I appreciate you sharing your wisdom with the rest of the listenership out there this morning, and we really appreciate you calling in, and we'll be happy to help you with that air conditioning situation. So, Mary, reach out to us when you have a copy of that letter ready to review. We'll get you squared away, okay?
Thanks so much. You have a blessed and safe day.
You too, Mary. God bless you. Bye-bye. 877-943-9673. 877-943-9673. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. I'm your host, Attorney Patrick Smith. And before we go to our next caller, we frequently offer up and say to the listeners, hey, if you have a suggestion for content or a subject you would like addressed on the show, send it in. And lots of you do. And so I've decided to focus on a couple that have been suggested. This first one comes to us from listener Keith. Listener Keith, who's actually sent in several suggestions. The suggestion today was to discuss the legal differences with regard to fraud as it relates to credit cards versus debit cards. Now, we like to talk about a lot of different stuff on a legal call-in show, but the stuff that I find most helpful is the practical stuff. Yeah, we can talk about equal protection clauses and a woman's right to privacy, and we can talk about election law, but how much of that affects us day to day for the most part? Well, almost all of us use credit cards and debit cards. So thank you, listener Keith, for this suggestion. This one's for you. With credit card fraud, this is according to NerdWallet, by the way. The card issuer's money is at stake. With a debit card fraud, your money has been stolen. So here's the distinction. All right. It all comes down to this key difference. With a credit card, the card issuer, so like Visa, MasterCard, whatever, the card issuer must fight to get its money back. With a debit card, you must fight to get your money back because the money's coming out of your account directly. So, again, according to NerdWallet, if card information has been stolen and potentially fraudulent transactions have been made, two laws protect your rights. For credit cards, the primary law is the Fair Credit Billing Act. For debit card transactions, the Electronic Funds Transfer Act applies. While these laws offer some similar protections, knowing the difference is key to understanding why it's safer to use one type of plastic than the other. So there are some pros and cons, and at the end of the day, the exact liability limits under the EFTA are: lost or stolen card reported before unauthorized transactions has zero liability. Lost or stolen card reported within 2 days, a $50 liability limit. Lost or stolen cards reported within 60 days, $500 liability limit. After 60 days, no protection. So know your limits there with regard to the applicable laws on credit card reporting and if it's been stolen or lost. And it's a key point. It's a point that comes up day to day for people. And it says here, again, according to NerdWallet, that the bottom line, from a legal perspective, credit cards generally provide more protection against fraudulent activity. But there are ways to mimic some of these protections with a debit or prepaid card. Deciding which is best for you will help protect your money, whether you're spending online or swiping in a store. So there you go. Again, thank you, listener Keith, for that very helpful suggestion. Maybe you have a credit or debit fraud story you want to call in and talk about getting your money back or disputing the claim. Give us a call, 877-943-9673. And we have another listener suggested topic we're going to get to, but the phones are blowing up. So let's see who wants to talk next. We're going to go to St. Petersburg and talk to Fred. Fred, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Good morning. Yes, thank you. I rent an apartment, and to communicate with the office or anything, you have to go to a portal, on your computer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I've lived there like 8 years, I think, something like that. No problems. Everything's cool. The other day, I went to the portal to put a request, actually, and maintenance request. And it came up. I put my password, blah, 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 all that. And it came up, verify your ID, and it showed my name. It had 2 more lines, and then in the bottom line, it showed my phone number.
Mm-hmm.
The first blank line was my date of birth. The next line down was my social security number.
Yeah, that's
And
weird.
yeah, I know. And I didn't want to do that. I put my date of birth in and I put my last 4 in, but that didn't work. So I went down to the fine print and went to the privacy, all that stuff. And you know how they got the privacy things highlighted where you click on it and read it. I went there. The next page was empty. I kept fooling around and finally got to this company that is doing this for the apartment. I guess they changed companies that do all this for them.
Uh-huh.
And I went through all their stuff. It's basically advertising for their wonderful company, I guess. And so finally I went through some fine print, and at the bottom it actually said, in short, we collect all information given to us.
They're data harvesting.
And so I thought, well, that's a red flag to me. So I went to the office. I showed the girl in the office this. She hadn't seen it yet. That's how new it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then gentleman in the other office, it's just a small office, but there's 3 people in there. Anyway, he goes through it and looks at it. Yeah, this is legit. Yeah, this is what we're doing. Well, the front girl came in later on, and she had knew about this and had other complaints. So I can't get in the portal. I can make a request though, actually, but I can't look at my payment history or anything like that. And I'm just curious. I want somebody to tell me: am I going crazy? Am I an old guy and just paranoid? Or here's my thinking: I'm going to wait and see what happens. Because I know a lot of people see that and they're not going to put their social in there, just like me.
So this is a residential community, like under some sort of homeowners association. Is that correct?
No, it's an apartment complex.
Okay.
It's an apartment building.
Okay,
Yeah.
but there's going to be some sort of governing document, like covenants or bylaws for the building. And for that portal, there's going to be some sort of tether between the covenants, the bylaws, and that portal's operation. It's really going to be an issue for like a homeowners association type of attorney. And if you don't have one, Fred, I can put you in touch with one to take a look at that and see whether or not that's even appropriate under the covenants and bylaws for that building.
Okay. Well, I don't want to get that involved in it just yet. I want to see what happens. I don't really need to go in there that often. I probably don't go in there every couple months.
Well, that was my next question. I mean, how often do we use the portal? And then what is a portal-less life look like for Fred? Is it a life that, we simply can't live without the portal? Or is it, there's some minor inconveniences because now we have to physically walk into the office? Which one is it, Fred?
Well, you're right about not using it that much. However, my rent comes out of my credit card every month, simply because they wanted me to do Venmo, and I didn't want to do that. So they take a credit card. It costs a little more, but I think it's safer.
You have to manually put it in. It's not like a reoccurring charge.
It's reoccurring.
Oh,
yeah.
So you can just check your credit card statement and make sure it went in. You don't even go to the portal at all.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. Just
however, they don't send a receipt or anything. I suppose my credit card statement is good enough, right?
Yeah, I think that would be fine. And like I said, on the credit card thing, as long as you're monitoring these things, I think you're in good shape. I mean, you just keep an eye on that statement, and obviously, if you lose the card, let them know right away, and you have liability against any fraud. But it sounds like everything's just transitioning. But I agree with you. You're not the only one. There are going to be a lot of people unhappy with the fact that a full Social Security number is required just to log into a portal for your apartment building.
Yeah, and I asked the girl, "Is anybody else complaining?" She says, "Yeah, a couple people," and I said, well, you probably get more. But anyway, okay, well, thanks a lot for taking my call. Appreciate it, and I enjoy the show.
Well, Fred, I appreciate your kind words. Thank you so much. Have a great Saturday, okay?
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, 877-943-9673. Fred hanging up does open up a phone line if you've been trying to get in. We kicked off the show by discussing debit versus credit cards and the differences there with regard to fraud and which one kind of provides better protection, as per listener Keith's suggestion. Next suggestion from listener Denise was regarding what turns out to be a scam. Now, you'll receive some sort of correspondence, and the correspondence is essentially this. You were a caregiver. This scam likes to target nurses particularly, which makes it even more shameful. And what it is, it says you provided care for someone. It doesn't mention a specific patient, and the sum is usually around a couple $1 million. And basically, it's trying to lure you in to contacting this entity. And they've gone so far as to set up websites. So if you search for it, it pops up, it looks legitimate, and then they call, and basically it is a matter of getting banking information and information regarding you, so that you can supposedly receive the inheritance. But of course, it's a scam, and you want to be particularly aware of that. And we've done several shows on scams over the years, and the way they're popping up now, there's the famous person scam. I heard about this one this past week. Someone emailed and said, hey, I'm talking to this famous person, and if I said the name, you know it. And that's going around right now, where it's not really the famous person, obviously, but it's someone pretending to be that person. And of course, they're eventually asking you for money, which is, again, a red flag if they're asking you for money and there's some multimillionaire famous person. But you'd be surprised that people do. They want to believe it's true so badly that they allow themselves to be scammed. So again, thank you to listener Denise for suggesting that nurses scam topic. So if you're out there and you're a nurse and you got such a letter, call in. We'd love to talk to you too, to see if it's a similar type of letter, or if it's maybe a little bit different twist than what we heard from listener Denise. So 877-943-9673. Back to the phones. We're going to talk to Dobbs in Sarasota. Dobbs, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. How can we help you today?
Okay, maybe you can. I understand there's some kind of law on the books pertaining to real estate transaction. A person over a certain age can keep whatever profit they made on the sale or resale of the house that they live in. Is that true?
So it's a tax question. You're talking about like a capital gains tax situation?
Well, I think that's what it is. Somebody told me that I think it's over the age of 62 or something like that. If you sell your house and you've had it for so many years and you made a profit on it, there is no tax on that profit. That's what I was told. Is that for sure or what?
I don't know is the short answer. I am looking here. Let's see. Doing some research in real time. Dwayne Bischoff is normally who I would ask this of, and I will. If I don't find the answer here really quickly, I will ask Dwayne next week when I talk to him, and I'll do a follow-up piece on it, Dobbs, if we don't get the answer in real time. So you said this this sounds like a federal law. Are you saying this is a state law?
Yeah, I believe President Reagan is the one that initiated this thing.
Oh, so
way back when.
I was going to say, so it just went into effect then.
I'm sorry?
I was joking with you, Dobbs. Yeah, it's been in effect.
Oh, okay.
It's been in effect probably as long as I've been alive. That also might explain why
I
I haven't heard about it. So yeah, it's not popping right up. But Dobbs, I'm making a note now. We'll do a follow-up on that for you. Or you can reach out to me at the law office next week, and I will just personally put you in touch with Dwayne, and the two of you can connect and get the answer to that question. But it sounds to me
what
like
do you want me to do? Call your office?
Yeah, it's 844-PATRICK. And I'll put you in touch with Dwayne. And then for the rest of you, I will do a follow-up on Dobbs' question regarding this. But it sounds like it's some sort of capital gains protection for the elderly.
It would amount to, I think, if you want to get technical.
Yeah, so that's an income tax question, and I would always defer to Dwayne on anything like that.
Okay, no problem. All right, I'll call you next week sometime.
Dobbs, looking forward to it, okay? Have a great rest of your weekend, okay?
You too. Thank you.
All right. 877-943-9673. Yeah, we're not afraid to say I don't know around here. If we don't know, we will say that. And then our promise to you is we will find out. So that's a good question. A lot of the senior citizens out there. And a question regarding if you sell your home beyond a certain age, can you keep the profit without any capital gains? I think that was the question. So we will research that and get back to you. 877-943-9673. Again, for those of you who want to call the office line, like Dobbs is going to do, or if you want to call with a question or to schedule your complimentary estate planning consultation, take advantage of one of our $75 wills or our $695 trust packages. Again, I heard this week constantly refrains of, I was quoted $1,200, $1,500, $3,000. I think the highest I heard this week was $4,000 for the same thing that we do for $695. And I told them the same thing I tell everyone. I say, look, as long as I'm around, these rates are going to be these rates, because my philosophy is I love making estate planning accessible for everyone. And that's why we charge the rates that we do for quality estate planning documents. So 844-728-7425 is the office line to schedule your complimentary estate planning consultation. 844-728-7425 or 844-PATRICK. So again, thank you again to all the listeners who sent in their suggested content. If you have a show idea, send it in. Patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. You can email me, Patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. Your suggestion for the show, keep them coming. We love it and appreciate your ideas. Next, let's go to Port Charlotte. Let's talk to Bill. Bill, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. How can we help you today?
Hello, Patrick. I spend most of my Saturdays listening to you, and this is the first time I'm calling in. But my first question, I have two. It involves personal umbrella policies. How much should you carry on a personal umbrella policy to protect yourself in Florida?
Well, so I always recommend bringing in your financial advisor, someone who really knows the scope of your worth, and they can kind of give you the best advice on that. They can also walk you through whether or not you add the rider for uninsured, underinsured coverage. That's where if Knucklehead hurts you and they don't have sufficient coverage, you can actually file a claim against your own umbrella. I would say most commonly, I see umbrella policies probably in the 1 to 2 million range.
Okay.
But
we're
I'm
sitting
not
at 5 right now, but
yeah, I'm not saying you shouldn't do 5. I'm just saying that's probably the most common number I see is something in the 1 to 2 range. But again, it's your financial advisor with your attorney that are kind of give you the best answer. The financial advisor going to tell you kind of that magic number. And then you talk to the attorney about sort of what your exposure is, because you're concerned about liability if you're doing umbrella. And if all of your assets are already bulletproof, so like a lot of people, their major asset is the house, which is constitutionally protected under Article 10, Section 4 of the state constitution. You're not terribly worried about liability if the state constitution, the highest body of law, is already protecting your one and only asset. So I think at the end of the day, it's a conversation with both of those parties, your attorney and your financial advisor, and then you'll pick the perfect amount on your umbrella. But I'm a big fan of umbrella insurance. I have it personally as well.
Our biggest asset, is stocks in our life. My second question is on wills and trust.
Go ahead.
I'm 66. My wife is 62. And we will, in our lifetime, break that 13.6 threshold.
Okay.
So is there anything that we should do to prepare for that? And when I do a will, because we're going to be calling you to set up a will, we have one from Ohio, so we need to get something in Florida. Are there things that we need to do now before you hit that threshold on our personal stuff to protect it?
Well, I mean, I think the main thing you would do is plan the party and get a nice bottle of champagne. And if you're going to break 13.6 million, that's special. So, I mean, yeah, I think with the new rules, the current exemption being 13.6 million, there's also something called portability now. So upon timely filed 706s, each spouse actually gets 13.6 million. So yes. Right. So, but what you would do is set up something called an AB credit shelter trust. That's where you have a trust, your wife has a trust. And then in the privacy of the office with your attorney, you will walk through the 3 pecuniary funding formulas. There's pecuniary marital, pecuniary credit shelter, and fractional share analysis. This is the deep end of the pool, folks. If you're starting to fall asleep, that's completely normal. And walking through those formulas sort of takes yours and your wife's temperatures on which one makes you most comfortable, because it's a way of divvying up assets between these family shelter trust and the spousal trust. And then we basically walk you through that and make those selections. And we also take your temperature on charitable giving or irrevocable planning, like irrevocable life insurance trust. And then if you should cross over that double exemption, so you're beyond 27.3 million, that's where the planning gets super advanced, because now we're
Yeah,
all
we
out of
shouldn't
credits.
be beyond that.
Yeah. So that's the
we
short
should
version.
probably,
Yeah. Set up the
Okay.
AB Credit Shelter Trust in anticipation of that. And that's fantastic news. Do you mind sharing with everyone why you're so confident you're gonna cross that threshold of 13.6 million?
We're at 10 right now, and the stock market the way it's doing, and real estate the way it's doing. We'd have to really screw up not to.
Yeah, I agree. No, if you're at 10 and you said
We're retired.
Did you say your age, or did I miss that?
I'm 62 or 66. My wife is 62.
Yeah, that's still pretty young. So, hey, congratulations. That's wonderful news. And that's my advice. If you don't have an attorney, just give us a call. We'll be happy to sit down with you and start that planning process for you.
Okay. Hey, thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem, Bill. Have a great day. Thanks for calling.
Take care.
877-943-9673. Bill hanging up does open up a phone line. Let's go straight to a very patient Charlie in Tarpon Springs. Charlie, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Good morning. I'm hoping you can help me. I'm at my wit's end with my cell phone carrier.
Ooh, I'm intrigued.
All right. For a long time now, I'm talking years, I've been having major issues with my phone, such as, codes being put in, settings being done without me doing them, things of that nature. And recently, I found a receipt from the cell phone carrier saying that they switched my account from one account to another account without even informing me. So my question to you is I've been having all these issues, yet they seem to do nothing and skate around the issue. What can I do about that?
Probably very little, because when you sign up with a cell phone company, all that fine print.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're basically giving away the farm in that one, because it's what we call a contract of adhesion. And basically, if you go back and read that, I don't have your specific contract, obviously, Charlie, but if you get it, I'll be happy to go through it with you and show you exactly why and when and where you're giving up those rights. But it's usually you waive your right to a trial, you agree to binding arbitration governed in a different jurisdiction, like you got to go to the state of New York to do it. And it's just such an uphill battle for you to begin to fight. And then on top of them switching or doing whatever they did, there's probably language in there saying that they have every right to do that. And you signed off agreeing to it, whether you knew it or not.
Okay. Because I'm worried, that there is identity theft and things of that nature going on.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard the caller, Fred, who called in and said that the apartment building he lives in now, the portal to communicate with the office, you have to put in your date of birth and social security number. I wonder why we're having so much identity theft.
Right. I just think it's a great topic to talk about too, because a lot of it's going on and there's little resources out there about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just think it's going to be such an uphill battle, because everyone wants a cell phone. And if you look at the person across the counter at your cell phone provider when you go to buy it and say, hey, can we negotiate any of these terms? See how far that gets you, Steve. I'm sorry, Charlie.
True.
Charlie. So yeah, no, Charlie, I just think it's a matter of you're probably stuck. But if you want confirmation that you're stuck, get me a copy of that cell phone contract, and we'll do, we can do a segment on the show about that and just kind of go through the minutia of cell phone contracts, so people kind of understand. And if you're out there and you have your cell phone contract handy, pull it out, start reading it. It's kind of scary, everything you're giving away by agreeing to use that cell phone.
Great. Thank you for your help. I appreciate it.
All right, Charlie, have a great day. Okay. Thanks for calling in.
You too. Yep.
All righty. 877-943-9673. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. I'm your host, Attorney Patrick Smith. Today is Saturday, May 18th. We're back with you live after a couple weeks hiatus. And we are so happy to be back with you answering your legal questions. If you need to book us for a speaking engagement, or you have a question or a call during the week at the office, or book your appointment, again, 844-PATRICK or 844-728-7425. All right, next, let's go to Al in Tampa. Al, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Mr. Smith. Thank you for taking my call, sir. I just had a question about organizational things like if you wanted to start a federation, say if you have horses or dogs, how complicated is that in the state of Florida?
So a federation. When you say federation, tell me your definition, Al. What is your definition of federation?
Okay, so you're basically a club in itself, but you want to have other clubs join you so that they can all benefit from being in the federation that you have.
So you're starting a club and you're going to basically have chapters, sub-chapters of the same club.
Exactly.
Is it going to be a 501c3? Are you guys trying to get tax deferred or tax exempt status?
Probably.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that's relatively easy to start up. And I've done this before. So registering the 501c3 and even getting the temporary status with the IRS is pretty simple. The heavy lifting is getting that permanent tax exempt status. And that's where you need the attorney, but you need an amazing
I
accountant.
hear you on the radio.
What's that? So Al, I was saying you need an attorney, but you're also going to need a really great accountant, and we'll be happy to put you in touch with one. It's Dwayne Bischoff, who's a regular guest on our show, and he would be happy to help you with that tax deferred status for your new federation, as you call it, or club, and all the sub chapters of said club. And all right, let's talk to next. We're going to go to Largo, and we're going to talk to Steve. Hey, Steve, what's going on in Largo this morning?
Oh, the sun's breaking out, and we're just getting ready to go out for some exercise down on the Gulf.
You know, I've heard a little exercise will never kill you, but I figure why take the chance? How can
Well,
we
I've
help
never met you. I've never met you, but I'd like to see your profile, your physical profile. Anyway,
that's kind of creepy, Steve, but okay, go ahead with your question.
I wanted to see how fat you were if you don't exercise. At any rate, let me go on. Let me try to be succinct here. Can a debt that you owe to a company, and in this case, it's a medical doctor, can they coerce you to agree with the terms of and conditions of usage on their portal in order to pay a debt?
So it's a private company, correct?
Yes.
And so again, I think it's probably one of those things similar or akin to the cell phone contract. When you engage with business with them, did you sign some sort of terms of use or agreement with them?
Signed, and we refused to sign the terms of agreement on the computer page when we signed up for the portal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
so I think you
they-
probably agreed to it, and without seeing those specific terms, I don't know for sure. But if you can get me a copy, I'm happy to walk through them with you.
No,
just as
we
a courtesy.
refused to accept the terms of agreement.
Yeah.
So without being able to enter into the portal, we were unable to pay the bill, because that's the only way they would accept payment is if we went through the portal.
Okay.
And we said, we're not using your portal. And I sent them a money order, and they refused to accept it. They sent it back.
Okay, when you engaged them for the services, was there any sort of a agreement you signed at that time, like a contract or a service agreement, anything like that, Steve?
At the court, this was 2 years ago, and I can only guess.
It probably there
but-
probably was, and in that was probably something saying you would agree to pay them via use of the portal. That's my guess. But
Well, you're
without,
still being coerced.
well,
It seems to me.
it's not so much coercion as it's tough negotiation. They're saying if you want to do business with us, this is the way you're going to do it. But guess what? You have the ultimate power to walk away, Steve. You can say, I don't want to do business with you guys if you're going to do it this way. I'll find someone else.
Yeah, well, the issue wasn't an issue until the bill came. But anyway, we got it straightened out.
Good.
But,
how did you get it straightened out?
Well, when they returned the money order, I told them to drop dead. And so 2 years went by, and I got a bill for $97 or $94 from a collection agency in New Jersey representing this particular medical company.
Yeah, they sold your debt down the line.
I don't know. It says the directions on the bill were to call, or they gave me a number and an address, and I called, and the doctor's office answered, and at this point, they accepted payment by credit card over the phone.
Well, there you go. I'm glad it had a happy ending. And Steve, we appreciate you calling in.
Hey, you bet.
All right. Hey, Dobbs in Sarasota, if you're listening, just doing quick research on the fly here. According to smartasset.com, the IRS allows no specific tax exemptions for senior citizens, either when it comes to income or capital gains. The closest you can come is contributing to a Roth IRA or Roth 401k after tax dollars, allowing you to withdraw money without paying taxes. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. Check with your financial advisor on something like that. But again, quick real-time research for Dobbs on his question about senior citizens or elderly keeping profits from the sale of a home. There's your answer, Dobbs. But feel free to call me at the office next week if you just want to follow up. All right, my hometown of Winter Haven, Larry. Larry, you're calling back, it says. How can we help you today, Larry?
Yes, Patrick. I spoke to you in the office and you asked me to call back this weekend. You helped me out with an issue on a living will, and I appreciate it. But you wanted me to call you back because I'm considered the Coaster King of Tampa Bay.
That's right. This is Larry the Coaster King. So, Larry, tell everyone who you are.
I'm a retired Navy, retired post office worker, and I did 11,352 coaster rides in 1 year at Busch Gardens.
11,000. What was the rest of it?
352 rides in 1 year.
In 1 year. So you're going to beat that this year?
No, I can't do it this year.
Why not?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm doing different parks. And in 2 weeks, I'll be in Carowinds in North Carolina, then Dollywood, then Busch Gardens.
I just don't want you to settle. I want you to hit 100,000 rides in 1 year, Larry. I want us to get crazy with these goals, okay?
Well, I'll tell you what, if they would accommodate me and allow me to do so, you could put me on a coaster and come back in 48 hours and I'd still be riding.
So I tell you what we'll do is you break that number you currently have, 11,352. You make the 11,353rd ride. I will personally show up and take the ride with you.
That sounds like a great deal.
Larry, no, I just thought you called in and you sort of held these cards close to your chest. And I was like, Larry, you should have shared that with everybody. So it's quite an honor to talk to the Coaster King himself. And it's even a bigger honor to know that you're living in my hometown of Winter Haven. So, Larry, we appreciate you calling back and let me know how the coaster riding is going from time to time. Feel free to check in, okay?
I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Larry, have a great day. All right, quickly, let's go to Ann in Winter Haven. Ann, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a question. We have insurance with a good company, and now they want to know if we want to take out the uninsured motorist. And it's $600 more, which our insurance is already sky high for our car. We have a 22 Lincoln. Do you advise us to take that?
No, from a legal perspective, I say keep that in, but I also say piggyback that by calling your financial advisor too and getting their opinion, since there is a financial element to it. But from a legal perspective, absolutely keep it in.
You mean we should go ahead and take that?
Yeah, I don't, because if something happens and someone else doesn't have enough insurance, I think that'll be and you don't have it, that's the worst $600 you ever saved.
Okay, so you're saying I should take it?
Yeah,
okay.
but in general too, Ann, just so you know, I'm just a huge insurance guy. I'm a big fan of insurance and having it, life and disability, umbrella. I think when you set it up properly, you really can optimize protecting your family.
Okay, right. That's all.
And take care of my hometown, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye-bye. 877-943-9673. Let's go to Sebring and talk to Ben. Ben, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. How can we help you today?
I just got a quick question. My wife and I were looking at a house about 12 years ago. Our in-laws ended up buying the house cash for us. Now, 12 years later, we've, had a word-of-mouth agreement to pay them back. We've paid them back everything plus the improvements and everything, and they're trying to figure out a way to put the house in our name with the least amount of tax penalty against them. And with all the research we're doing, kind of not finding any real straight answers on if they gifted us the house, who would be responsible for what in taxes.
Well, it doesn't sound like they gifted you the house. It sounded like they basically loaned you the money and you paid them back. I mean, a gift of the house would be we bought the house and gave it to you, but they bought the house and then you bought it from them. So it's more about going back and memorializing that transaction to treat it as a real estate transaction and not a gift. If they hold good title under what we call a warranty deed, we'd probably just do a quick claim deed and take care of it that way, Ben. But give me a call at the office next week. We'll take a look at all the paper trail with you. We'll get you squared away. That's not a very difficult task at all.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Ben. Have a great day. All righty. We are almost out of time. Boy, this show goes fast. I had so much more to get through. I was going to go over the new sex trafficking bill. I had a whole segment planned on that. We'll just have to save that for next week. For those of you who have been listening for the hour, thank you for being here for the entire hour, listening to all those fantastic questions. And we thank you, listeners. I love when I can't get to all the material because I'm talking to you guys. That is the priority. That is the heart and soul of this show. And we will be back with you next week. To call me at the office if you want to book your complimentary estate planning consultation, 844-728-7425, 844-728-7425, or 844-PATRICK. Everyone stay safe, God bless, and of course, go Gators.